Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you another video. All right, so as I said, I wanted to keep talking, so I was going to do another video, but I didn't want to keep it condensed to the Nets because that was exactly what we were doing there, and kind of want to get off of that to a degree. But all in all, thank you for coming to BDF 44's channel. This is a continuation, of course. All right, so I'm looking right now. Obviously, the draft is coming up very soon. We got the draft in about 3 days. I'm looking around and there's rumors floating around involving the names of the Lakers, the Nets, and various different teams. And the one thing that I've been talking about for the last couple of days is the fact that I'm seeing free agency opportunities starting to form in places that I didn't necessarily think players would ever want to go to or find themselves at. But we can see a situation where the NBA shakes up to where you might see some unexpected people in some unexpected places. That's what I'm here to tell you. Teams like the Indiana Pacers, the Orlando Magic, San Antonio Spurs, the Atlanta Hawks, the Portland Trail Blazers. Those are the teams that come to mind first that I think can really make some big moves in terms of taking on some salary. Maybe not Atlanta as much, but I know they're trying to make trades. But in terms of these other teams that I've mentioned, they're in position to take on salary. And some of the players that need to leave certain places are players that you would never dream of expecting to see in those places, is what I'm here to tell you. For example, DeAndre Ayton. I have a very, very difficult time finding where I think he's going to land. It's a very tricky situation because he's definitely somebody most teams should want. But his situation is strange because he's due for a max contract that his team has chosen not to give him. Now, me personally, I just think that was an error. I think they overvalued Chris Paul to a degree, and they didn't secure Ayton's money. And that was just a dereliction of their duties as a franchise because you have to value youth. You have to. Youth is your future. If you pour all your chips to the front of the table, Chris Paul's going to retire, and you're going to be left with what exactly? An unhappy Devin Booker with no DeAndre Ayton, and a Mikal Bridges, who's a nice player, but he's not keeping anybody in place. At least if you knew you kept Ayton and kept Ayton at an amount that made sense, in my opinion, he's the best conditioned center in the game. You know for a fact that you have a rim runner, somebody who can do a lot of different things, and somebody who's going to be durable as all hell, dominating players who don't have their condition up to par. So that is who Ayton is. And when you don't pay him his money for a Chris Paul, who we've seen has been in the league for many years, who has a lot of mileage and ultimately has come short due to injuries year in and year out in the playoffs. You give him all the money and you give nothing to Ayton, and you're going to find out that your team is not as good as you want it to be because you're not going to be able to supplement that size next season. That team is going to fall off significantly unless they're able to pull off something with small ball and get some type of center that I don't know of to get. So that is the situation there. Where does Ayton go? Maybe he finds himself in somewhere like Pacerland. You know, I know they got Miles Turner in place, but they got the money for it, Ayton. Maybe the Chicago Bulls decide they want to pick Ayton up. They could surely use him. They could definitely use a player like that in their situation. The Utah Jazz, if they're able to get rid of Rudy Gobert, is there a possibility they'll be able to find a way to slip him in there? If Donovan Mitchell isn't there, could he be a part of a brand new new look Utah? I don't know. Like, these things are totally possible. I look at the San Antonio Spurs and I say they have a bunch of young talent that a lot of these teams would want, and the cap space to take on a superstar. Would they be willing to bring DeJounte Murray, an actual running mate that can help him win? Because that is what they are lacking there. He got a lot of young guys, but nobody there that's really giving him that extra punch to make him a serious playoff contender. So they have the ability to acquire a Bradley Beal. They have the ability to acquire a DeAndre Ayton. They have the ability to acquire a Zach LaVine. Will they be active, or will they stay true to the San Antonio mantra and keep churning away at young talent? Which is actually pretty smart to do if they decide to. In their case, I think they could have a better core of young players. Their core of young players is comparable to the Lakers core before we had AD, which wasn't the best core, but still very good, right? But maybe not worth it to see mature in place of a superstar. So I think the San Antonio Spurs are a good candidate to change things up this offseason, even though they never do. So You know, I look at the teams that are out there. The Pistons are in a position where they can do the same thing, depending on the type of jump you think Cade Cunningham could make from year 1 to year 2. Maybe it makes sense to get him a running mate. You know what I mean? Somebody who can go up there, beat step ahead of Sadiq Bey, and be a number 2 for their team, so that they can have some domination down there in the Eastern Conference and have a say-so in the playoffs themselves. They have the ability. So, you know, it's a lot of stuff. And then you got situations like, and I can't remember who the player was, but I do remember the scenario to which they just don't have the players' money, even though they would love to keep them. Just like Ayton. There's another situation where whoever this player is going to have to find somewhere else to play. And it's not going to be something they want to do. So when you have scenarios like that, the environment for new players in new places is very high. So looking forward to seeing what comes about in this free agency. Obviously, with the drafts coming up, you're looking at teams like Detroit also in regards to that. Maybe Detroit adds to that core with this pick. Maybe they can couple that pick with the cap space they have and get a lot better. I don't know, but these are the type of things they can do. You could totally see Bradley Beal as a Detroit Piston next year, even though it's not something I'm sure he would choose. When you think about the type of fit that he would be in that situation, kind of intriguing, to be completely honest with you. Cade Cunningham, Sadiq Bey, Bradley Beal. See, and that's my thing. I think teams, or players, not teams, players should start seeing themselves as the solution to certain situations. Because you got to get creative. Because a lot of times, the teams that have the depth aren't the teams that are the sexiest names. You may want to come to the Lakers, but you're probably going to look better in, I don't know, Deep Team A. I don't know, whatever Deep Team is. But you're going to be better there because they have the supplement players to make you look good, or the guys that can help you with your weakness, et cetera, et cetera. So I think those are the type of situations players need to be looking for. Like Chris Paul did when he chose the Phoenix Suns. You got to have an imagination for you being the solution, right? Because he made that decision, you see how much richer he got. We were complaining about the contract today. It was the right decision because he didn't look at it and say it's not LA, it's not New York. He didn't look at that situation and say they are a good team, because they weren't. He said, they're missing me. And because they're missing me, I'm going to go there. I'm going to maximize what I can do there. And we're going to get to the finals. And I'm going to make another max contract when it doesn't even look like I can. So those are the type of decisions I think players need to look at and try to envision themselves and the fit that's best for them, you know, because the players that do that will maximize their careers. It's not going to be the guys that's chasing the beautiful lights and the beautiful scenery. No, it's the guy that's focused on basketball, who understands who he is, who he's not, and knows exactly where he slots in perfectly. I think that guy will be happier with his career than anyone else. So that's what I think. I think that it's very important, and I think players should get creative in that way. Because you could totally see a situation where, and this is just an example, Bradley Beal could see himself as a solution in San Antonio. This is not what I'm saying, but I'm saying, like, if he were to think that way and he sees the fit there, I don't think that player should hesitate to look at that as his viable option, not just go to the big name team. I think that's a mistake. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say about that particular thing. What else? We got so many different conversations in regards to the NBA. Coaching changes, executives moving around. Minnesota got a brand new executive, so I'm curious to see if they make some moves, if they shake up a little bit. I believe it was the Nuggets guy that went to Minnesota. Minnesota's making some big changes over the last several years. Obviously, with A-Rod coming in, it's a new attitude. As soon as he came in, I knew losing was over with. Not to say that they were going to win championships back-to-back or nothing crazy, but when you bring in an expert athlete, Hall of Fame athlete, even though he's from a different sport, what A-Rod's going to do is make sure that the athletes have what they need. He understands superstardom because he's superstar of the highest order in his game. So you understood that it was just a matter of time before you start seeing the results of his presence being there. And I think we're starting to see it. As soon as they picked up Anthony Edwards and then started picking up players like McDaniels and Patrick Beverly, you started really seeing that the culture was changing for the better. And I think they're about to make a big jump. I think the Minnesota Timberwolves can make a big jump this season. I think they're going to be a top 4 team in the Western Conference if they continue to keep the crux of their core intact. They have good role players that I don't think they should be deviating from. I think they should try to retain Tyus Jones. No, he was with the Memphis Grizzlies. In fact, they should probably think about bringing him back. But these are the type of things, like, you know what I mean? The Memphis Grizzlies are in a position to where I think they're ready to continue their ascension into playoff stardom as a team. So keep an eye on them. That is a real thing there. And look, God dang it, I keep telling y'all, people gonna overhype the damn Clippers every year. And I know I'm a Clipper hater, so it's gonna sound like I'm speaking a certain way. But I swear, this is the truth. This is how I see it. The Clippers have a really deep team, obviously. They have a bunch of not young players, but they have a bunch of good quality role players all over their roster. But the thing about it is injuries. Injuries. If a team show you who they are, believe them. The Clippers have shown me that a lot of the players that they have are injury prone. Kawhi Leonard, Norman Powell, Paul George. These guys are not going to be players that you're counting on to play a full season at any given point. I'm looking at, the gist of what they have. Luke Kennard, he's a guy who can make a solid jump this year. I expect him to play better. This is year 6 or year 7 for him. He's got a lot of natural ability. I've seen him hit some big shots. I think the jump is coming. Terrence Mann, year 4 Terrence Mann, you should be excited about that. Amir Coffey, year 2 of Amir Coffey, or year 3, excited about that. So I see where people see the Clippers as a really, really viable team. But the problem I have with the Clippers is the same problem I have with the Chicago Bulls. Too many quality players sitting down at a given moment. It's the opposite of the value of having depth. It's the opposite. Because what you end up having is a bunch of players that you need on the floor that you can't use on the floor because you have to have other players on the floor. It's the same problem that the Miami Heat have as well. You just don't have enough of your strengths condensed into few enough players to make your basketball team make sense every time you make a rotation change. That is the problem with the Clippers. They're going to have to improve their center position, particularly. I like Zubac, but not enough. I like Hartenstein. As you guys know, I'm a big Hartenstein guy, but as a backup center, they're going to have to improve that position, in my opinion. They're going to have to get themselves a point guard as well. They got a bunch of scores everywhere. Hooray. Who the hell is getting them the ball? This is the problem with them. For whatever reason, the Clippers do not value playmaking. When Blake Griffin was in place, they didn't value small forward wing play. Now that they have this core, they don't value facilitating. For God's sakes, Clippers, I don't care how much talent you put together. If you don't have every element of basketball, you are not winning. I've been screaming this in this camera at this particular franchise for over a year now because they've been doing this my entire life. And since they picked up Blake Griffin, they've been pouring a lot of money into their team. But it's like having a beautiful car without an engine, fam. It doesn't matter how nice the car is. It's not moving. And that is what I want to say to the Clippers. Please, for the love of all things basketball, find anyone who can pass the ball to everyone. That is all I'm saying. Boston needs to do the exact same thing. Get yourselves a facilitator, please. Do it. Do it now. I've been screaming this from the rafters. The Atlanta Hawks have one of the better facilitators in all of basketball. He is dirt cheap right now. I told y'all about Mo Bamba when he was dirt cheap 2-3 years ago. I'm telling you now about the guy that they got over there in Atlanta. Dirt cheap. If his name comes to mind, I'll give it to you. Sharif Cooper. Dirt cheap. Clippers, go get Sharif Cooper. Boston, go get Sharif Cooper. It ain't going to cost you nothing. Nobody knows he can play. Go get him. He'll make other guys better as he develops over time. But get him. So these are the type of things I just like. I know this. If I were just in a consulting room, I would make a lot of teams better just by saying, yo, you need him, and you need him. Speaking of which, PJ Tucker, he's opting into free agency, as I gave you guys a video on that yesterday. I think he's an important piece, especially if he's going to be only at $7 million for this particular year. Now, obviously, opt out, so he's looking for multiple years. But if he can stay at that pay rate, I think he might be good for certain teams, depending on the circumstances. Thing is, PJ Tucker's not, his game is not predicated on athleticism or any of that. As long as he continues to hustle and give you that PJ Tucker energy, hit his corner 3-point shot, and continue to play defense, you'll get the full experience out of PJ even if he ages. I think my thing with PJ is just making sure he finds himself in the right situation. He's been lucky too, or rather strategic and sound strategically in finding himself in situations that are good. He finds himself in winning situations a lot. So I'd imagine that's where he's going to be typecasted at this point, and I do expect another contender to pick him up. So, yeah, he's going to be important. The NBA champion should be looking to pick him up. Whoever they're going to be, that's who you want. So, let's see. Also, Kevon Looney. Look, the Golden State Warriors need to try to keep Kevon Looney. I don't know that they can. If you're trying to help cripple the Golden State Warriors for the rest of the league, who's trying to assure they don't win a championship next year, you get that kid out of there. Get him out of there. And GP2. I hear they're both free agents. GP2 has kind of raised his price value. He wants a little more than what it seems like Golden State's going to pay him. Get those two players out of Golden State. I don't think they can win without those two. In fact, Golden State needs to go get PJ Tucker if those two players leave. I'm going to put that out there right now. They need to be calling PJ right now. Hey, PJ. Yeah, no, they need him. If those two leave, they need him. And I'm putting that out there early. Because I'm telling you, GP2, if they didn't have GP2, they don't beat the Boston Celtics. He was the difference. Jaylen Brown's going to the hole every time if GP2 ain't there. Because Wiggins is going to be able to do it. But Wiggins is going to get in foul trouble. He ain't going to be able to take as many chances, and he ain't going to have the relief defensively if GP2 ain't there. And as I've told you guys, they don't even get out of the second round if they don't have Looney. In my opinion, with the exception, of course, Dre and Wiggins, those are their two other best defenders. You remove them from the Golden State Warriors, and they're going to have a hard time repeating. Very hard time. So get them out of there, y'all. Word to the wise. So that is what I got to say, I guess. 17 minutes plus the 30 minutes from the other video. I think I've run my mouth enough. I hope some of this made sense. I'm sure most of it is at least amusing to some. I think at this point, just waiting for the big news. We know it's coming. There will be trades between now and Thursday's draft, which will be, I don't want to give you the wrong time, so just look at it around 5 o'clock. I'm sure it'll be on around that time. So that's what's up, you guys. I think I'll do a little homework on some of these players. Of course, I'll get back to you guys if any news comes up. And that's what I got. BDF44. Thank y'all for watching. Out.